What's going on, guys? It's geeking time. Actually, in this case, it's retro video game review time. I got a review for you guys. Let's do this. You know what's something I love are retro video games. When I first started my channel, I did a couple of retro video game reviews for the Sega Genesis. I think I did maybe 3 or 4 of them. I didn't do enough of them. And I feel like I should bring back some. I'm going to start slower rather than, quit a whole bunch of them all together. But for now, I'd like to review with you guys Primal Rage for the Sega Genesis. Now, I know a lot of the retro reviews I do have to do with Sega Genesis. But that's because I own a Sega Genesis console. I do not have a Super Nintendo, a Nintendo Classic, a Sega Master System. I have a Sega Genesis. Now, I love playing my games on the Genesis, as it was my favorite console growing up. So that being said, for today's review, we're going to be reviewing Primal Rage for the Sega Genesis. This game here was developed originally for arcade, so it wasn't on home consoles originally when it first came out. It was released in 1994 on arcade through Atari. Now, of course, with all fantastic games that start with arcade, you know the consoles versions are coming. So, in 1995, Time Warner Interactive, yes, the company of Ted Turner video games, they released it to port for every major console. So, SNES, Genesis, Game Boy, Game Gear, and then later on it was also released, I believe, to PlayStation. So, like I said, it started out in arcade in 1994, and yeah, I mean, it was a really cool game. It's basically a fighting game. If you remember Street Fighter, if you remember Mortal Kombat, it's basically like those kind of games. But see, this game has to do with a bunch of primal animals fighting each other, so dinosaurs and primal apes, basically. So, I'm going to get into a little bit of the story, and then I'm going to show you guys some gameplay. So so the story of Primal Rage goes. So a massive meteor strike has devastated Earth. Human civilization comes to an end in the ensuing cataclysms, and humanity regressed into tribes of Stone Age dwellers. Primordial rainforest covers the land, and the continental landmass has shifted into the shape of a fire-breathing dinosaur skull. So I'm guessing that a dinosaur skull breathing fire is something to be feared, which I would be scared of that. The planet is now primitively referred to as Earth, U-R-T-H, by the survivors of the cataclysms. In this aftermath, 7 fearsome creatures emerge from their slumber deep within the Earth's, again, U-R-T-H, crust, and become worshipped as gods by the humans, who form segregated clans beneath the ones they follow. The beasts themselves are divided between those who wish to keep peace on Earth and those who attempt to plunge the world into further chaos for their own benefit. So, it's basically this unique, it's kind of unique where it's, the Earth has gone into an apocalypse, and basically these, like I said, ape creatures, prehistoric ape creatures and prehistoric dinosaur creatures come back, and, humanity is thrown back into, like, the Stone Ages. So it's kind of cool. Among these characters that return, so you have Blizzard, who's basically the ape-like god of good. You have Armadon, who's another dinosaur, who's basically the god of life. Then you have Talon, who is, Talon's basically like a raptor, and he's the god of survival. You've also got Sauron, who is another dinosaur, and he's the god of hunger. I believe he's a T-Rex. You also have Chaos, who's another ape, who's the ape-like god of decay. You have Vertigo, who's like this snake-type dinosaur, and she's the goddess of insanity. And you also have Diablo, who is another ape, who's the ape-like god of evil. So these creatures have to fight each other, and basically the goal is for, you know, the last one standing gets to control Earth and gets to control what they say. And each one of these characters have their own basically otherworldly supernatural abilities. So I think it's pretty cool. I prepared a little bit of a montage. Now, mind you, I used the character Vertigo, and I was playing against Vertigo, if I'm not mistaken, or I believe I was playing against Armadon. So here is that footage of the gameplay, which I will let you guys see right now. Alright, so this here is the opening screen for Primal Rage. Basically pretty simple, and then there's the start button and the option. Or click options if you need to. So then you go into character select. So here are the characters. You got Sauron, you've got Talon, you've got Vertigo, you've got Blizzard, you've got Diablo, you've got Armadon, and then the last one is Chaos. Alright, so once you choose your character, the fight begins. It says at the beginning when you start the fight, Rage! So that's basically me on the left. I'm the blue character Vertigo. I'm fighting against Sauron. I thought I was fighting against another version of Vertigo or Armadon, but it seems that I'm not. So yeah, so I just won the first round. Button mashing, so you know, same kind of moves over and over again. I'm going to round 2, Rage. So here I am again against Sauron again. Again, I'm the blue character Vertigo. So it's not that difficult of a game. It is pretty difficult though when the other characters lock you into the corner and they start jabbing at you and biting at you. That's when it gets to be a little difficult, but like I almost have Sauron beat and I just defeated Sauron. So that's what happens when you play the game. It's pretty much the same thing up until you fight till the end. So then you conquer each land, and once each land is conquered, you know, you've basically got the world to yourself. Oh, sorry. I thought the gameplay was still going on. Just checking my messages. So yeah, that was the gameplay. Now, obviously on that TV you saw the graphics are, I find the graphics are a little too blocky even on a bigger screen, even though I fix it up. So it's still a little blocky, but it's still fun to play. I still enjoy it. Now, as well, like the Mortal Kombat video games, this game did come with some controversy. So the controversy, basically, this game had controversy surrounding it due to the fact that it had very violent gameplay, it has some gory fatalities, and, you know, it showed the devouring of humans. I mean, I don't know if nowadays, yes, in video games, you can get away showing that because, you know, people are so desensitized to it. But back in the 8-bit era, 16-bit era, to see devouring of humans on a video game, I mean, yeah, like, that's why Mortal Kombat was really criticized for it. The thing is, it was also rated T for teen, when a lot of people believed it should have been rated M for mature. But, you know, it was rated T for teen. Now, although this happened, the arcade version was re-released after a while, and in the options you could put a no-gore mode, so, you know, if kids were playing with their parents around, you know, there was no blood or anything. But see, which I thought was really dumb, though, is the fact that there was a grassroots campaign that was launched to pull the video game due to its excessive violence and gore. Which, honestly, this led to Best Buy pulling it from 251 of their stores nationwide. I mean, it's just a video game. I mean, look, make sure your kids are buying the proper thing. If you're a parent and you want to make sure your kids playing proper video games, buy the game for them. Monitor what they're playing. That's what I always say. You know, I'm not gonna let my kid play a game that's mature. But what happened was Time Warner basically resubmitted it to the ESRB to try and get an M for mature rating. But the ESRB did not see anything wrong with it and thought to themselves, okay, you know what? This is a T for teen game. So they basically said, look, sorry, there's nothing we can do. It is T for teen. Just take the gore out. And so after this, Best Buy basically restocked it on their shelves, and the game was, you know, back there. So with the success of Primal Rage, the company wanted to release Primal Rage 2. Although it was tested and it was tested well, somehow it was cancelled. They never released Primal Rage 2, but it is still one of those games to this day that people still, you know, play. I believe that there's mobile versions and all that. So yeah, I mean, they tried their best to get a Primal Rage 2 out there, but you know, it just never worked out. You know, they put a book out there called Primal Rage Avatars, if I'm not mistaken, and it explained, that was basically kind of like the sequel but in book form. There was also, in terms of merchandising, they released a 4-issue miniseries comic book from 1996 up until 1998. It was kind of weird though, because the first issue was basically in color, and then the issues 2 to 4 were black and white. I don't know why. And there was also a line of action figures that were released. I forget who the toy company was, but they released a set of action figures based on the characters in 1996. I believe I had Blizzard. I think somebody got me Blizzard one year for my birthday, if I'm not mistaken, which was a pretty cool toy. So that was basically the only like merchandise they have. And of course, I mean, of all the console versions, you know, I'd like to see an updated version of Primal Rage. That would be pretty cool. I think that an updated version of Primal Rage today could do pretty well along the lines of Mortal Kombat. You know, maybe for the PS4. You know, see something. I'd like to see something even gorier, and maybe have an extra few characters on there. That'd be pretty cool to see. I think they can do it. Apart from that, the video game itself, playing it on the Sega Genesis, it's fun. I would only give it a 6.5 on 10. I did play the arcade version when I was a kid, and that version gets a 10 on 10 for me. But the console version only gets a 6.5 on 10 because I feel sometimes the buttons are a little bit repetitive. The characters, I find, only have certain moves, and it's not that easy to do the fatalities. You know, their finishing moves. As a Mortal Kombat Street Fighter clone with Primal Beasts, it is fun to play. I do suggest trying to play it. If you do have a retro console, definitely pick it up, try to play it. But apart from that, it is not the greatest game in the world. So that's my review of Primal Rage. Kind of short and sweet. Want to keep it to the point. I didn't really go too in depth with the gameplay. Like I said, basically it's a button masher. You know, it's a fighting game. So if you like fighting games, go for it. That being said, I'll be back again soon. In the meanwhile, you can go back and watch some of my other videos. Be sure to share, comment, like, and subscribe. And as always, guys, it's cool if it's nerd cool. Peace!